You are good to go.
Thank you, Lindsay. Okay, so January 13th council meeting. Thanks everyone for hopping online. I'm sure we weren't expecting to have to do it like this so early in the new year, but here we find ourselves, and it's the safest place to be. So I will call the meeting to order, and I want to acknowledge that we are on the unceded lands of the Mi'kmaq. And now we will sing "O Canada." And we're going to let Councillor Cleveland lead the way.
All right, 1, 2, 3. Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all our sons command. With glowing hearts we see the true north strong and free. From far and wide, oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. Oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee. And I see most of you had mute on.
I noticed that. A little bit shy in the choir this evening.
You're welcome for that one.
Thanks, folks. Okay, a record of attendance. Everyone's here. No absent with regrets. Declarations of conflict of interest, and we can certainly declare at the time of the agenda item. And approval of agenda, any additions or deletions. So I did ask Lindsay to add COVID. That's under 13A. And then I'm going to add B, which is TD funds. TD has reached out and asked if we want funds related to Pride Week. And is there anything else we wanted to add there? Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Can we add African Heritage Month celebration?
That's under 13C.
Thank you.
Anything else, anyone? We're good? Okay, a motion to accept the agenda with the additions. Councillor Lesser and seconded by Councillor Heather Hatfield. I'm going to be looking at the screen and it'll take a minute. Okay, good stuff. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Contrary? Motion carried. And aye is either verbal or a wave of your hand. That's perfect either way. Okay, approval of minutes of the town council meeting on December the 9th, 2021, please.
So, yeah.
Deputy Mayor, second by Councillor Hatfield. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Thank you. That was it. One meeting, because we didn't have committee of the whole in December. Okay, business arising, the livestock bylaw. So the recommended motion there is that council make no amendments to the livestock bylaw as recommended by staff. Do I have a motion there? Okay, Councillor Lesser, second by Deputy Mayor. CAO, did you want to say something? Because I certainly have a question on that.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that staff had reviewed this in light of the fact that we're reviewing all of our bylaws, but we do have discussion about livestock from time to time, and they reviewed the bylaw with the contract planner and felt that the bylaw did not need amendment at this time.
Okay, so my question is, and I probably missed a bylaw. I think that's what happened, because all it says is that the livestock owner shall remove feces from any public property. That's it. So which is the bylaw that says no livestock in town?
Land use bylaw.
That's it.
It limits where you can have livestock.
Okay, good. All right, so this one just covers that one particular item. Okay, so we moved and seconded. Is there any more discussion, questions? Okay, all those in favor? Contrary? Motion carried.
Your worship, can I just ask a question
Absolutely.
off topic? Is this being broadcast on Eastlink as well, or just online?
Yeah, so it's live streamed now, and then on the, I believe it's the 18th at 9 o'clock.
Okay.
So it gives us a couple days to make sure that we post that it's going to be available on Eastlink as well.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Both bases covered. Good question. Okay, fire prevention bylaw, and the motion there is that council approves second reading to amend the fire prevention bylaw to allow for the open air burning bylaw. Looking for that motion. Okay. Belle, are you putting your hand up?
No.
Okay, because I could see the top of your pen and I didn't know if you were, okay, good.
Right.
So we need to, who made the motion? Okay, Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Bell Hatfield. Any discussion on this one? Go ahead, CAO.
Your worship, this is second reading of the bylaw, but where it isn't a planning bylaw, it doesn't require a public hearing, just public notification. So the ads were run according to the MGA, and this bylaw amendment is simply to amend our fire prevention bylaw so it agrees with our open air burning bylaw. When we introduced the open air burning bylaw, it was contradictory to this bylaw. So this is just kind of a bit of housekeeping.
Good, thank you.
Okay.
Questions or concerns on this one, anyone? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. And 9C, feeding wild animals bylaw. The recommended motion is that council approve second reading of the feeding wild animals bylaw. Okay, moved by Councillor Bow. Seconded by Councillor Heather. Any discussion there? Go ahead, Councillor Dares.
Actually, I believe it was some time ago that Councillor Cleveland in a during a previous council had raised the issue of whether that included bird feeders. And there was no clarification of that issue, I don't believe.
Okay, CAO. I don't think it, yeah, I don't think it does.
No, we're not going to go after people to remove their bird feeders. The only situation I could see where that might come into play is if somebody had a nuisance bird feeder, and I can't imagine what the nuisance bird feeder would look like, but if you had a nuisance bird feeder, this is, perhaps you could lean on this bylaw, but that is not the intent of the bylaw. The intent of the bylaw has more to do with ducks and deer and other animals that have been known to be a nuisance, or where it's simply not a good practice to feed wild animals.
Councillor Cleveland?
I've had a problem with this for a little while because it's open to interpretation. I see my picture is frozen. I hope you can hear me.
We can.
Okay. I always bring my granddaughter down very close to where my home is here, to Broad Brook and the water park that's down there. I love it down there. And I usually feed the ducks. She and I will feed the ducks. It's a fun thing to do. We do it often. Last year, I took pictures of that and really got hassled by a couple of people because what I was doing was breaking the law, because I was feeding wild animals contrary to a bylaw like this. And I really would like to have something firmer in the bylaw that made it less open to interpretation. I know that the way it's written as basically a nuisance bylaw, as in if something is becoming a nuisance and other people report it, that's when everything goes into effect. But I still hesitate as it is written because of that. And, you know, I should be able to go to the water park and feed the ducks who live there, for example. And within that, there's not a lot of clarity.
Okay, fair enough. CAO?
So, Your Worship, if one wants to go to the Broadbrook Park and feed ducks appropriate food, and it does not cause, as the bylaw says in 3.0, unreasonable interference with another person's use and enjoyment of his or her property or of a public place. So simply the act of feeding the ducks seed or whatever is appropriate to feed ducks, unless it causes unreasonable interference of another person's enjoyment, you're not violating the bylaw.
So on down at Sealed Landers, all the ducks and the geese and I mean, they were at a point where people couldn't even enjoy their time there because it was so covered with, you know, the duck feces, whatever you want to call it. So that, I think that's different, and they were actually going onto the neighboring properties as well. So you're in a spot there, Councillor Cleveland, where I don't know that, like as the CAO said, that it would matter.
I guess my issue is, for example, at what point does it become that? And I guess a reasonable person would know that just using their own judgment.
We don't write these for reasonable.
Exactly.
You know, yeah. Go ahead, Councillor Dares.
So my understanding is that actually what we'd like to target is people that are feeding deer because of the increased deer population, and likely people that are feeding, for example, raccoons, which are once again out of hand. Would it not make more sense to identify those animals that we're trying to eliminate from the town boundaries or to control?
But then the ducks are an issue. The ducks are an issue in some places.
Okay, so perhaps we could include ducks, but you know, like you said, appropriate food. Or Jeff, I think, mentioned appropriate food, because bread crumbs apparently are not. Or identify areas where the ducks can be fed.
Or get a complaint and respond to the complaint.
I mean, there are people that feed feral cats at the wharf as well. Are they wild?
Good point. Go ahead, CAO, anytime you want to.
Yeah, no, I didn't think that was a bad idea at all that Councillor Dares raised. I mean, there may be certain animals that are common in this part of the world that we simply don't want to encourage feeding within the town in any place. I wouldn't say ducks is one of those, but deer, raccoons, rats, you know, you can think of a lot of animals that are skunks, right? That you never know, somebody might think it's a good idea to feed them. You know, we could make a list and add a section to the bylaw if you want to be crystal clear about that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see us having a massive skunk problem at this time at least. But I do know that there was you know, a neighbor of mine that was feeding raccoons, and I was told of somebody else that had as many as 30 coming to their house every evening to be fed. So if we identified, because I wonder if the bylaw is even strong enough for people that just feed, for example, feed the deer on their own property. You know, are they creating a hazard? And they are, and that's what we're trying to eliminate. But you know, I just think it might be easier just to identify the species that we're trying to control.
Go ahead, Belle.
The reason that I supported the bylaw was for the very reason that it is generic and does not provide you know, specific deterrents that are named by species. And my concern with identifying, anytime you begin to identify an individual species, you're always stuck in time. What happens if 5 years from now, you know, another species becomes an issue. We're worried about raccoons now, but what about porcupines, or what about, so the reason that I supported the bylaw in its form was that it is generic and does not identify or limit the enforcement of the bylaw to any one species, or and I think that it then becomes a matter of nuisance. It is a nuisance law, so it is applied by people complaining, I guess, and maybe it's.
So as opposed to saying these are the species, we define what is unreasonable interference. What is, you know what I mean? Like, say
Perhaps we could leave the generic and then list specific species that we are interested in controlling as, for instance, as opposed to only those.
Okay.
That
these, but not limited to.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Would that help? But again, if somebody's feeding those ducks, and I go right to sealed landers, I don't go to Broadbrook, because Broadbrook is where the ducks are. It's not housing, it's not, you know, Main Street, it's not any of those things. But if they're a nuisance, then we have to, I mean, there's already signs there that says don't feed them. So what is the wish of council? Go ahead, Councillor Dayers.
Just to follow up my comment, I don't see a problem that if we identify in the future that there's another species that becomes a nuisance, that the bylaw be amended to include that species. But I can't imagine that would be an issue in the near future. I think we clearly know that raccoons and deer are the problem animals in this community, and those are the ones that I see as the ones we're trying to target. But I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else?
Sorry. I agree completely with what Councillor Dares just said. I think that the main animals that we're, focused on are the deer and the raccoon. There are others, and we could amend if we need to, but those are the ones we hear about, I think, most from the public, and those are the ones that are jumping in front of our cars and eating our plants and occupying our yards. So I think those are the two main ones.
Go ahead.
So, Your Worship, might it be satisfactory to say in clause 3, no person shall feed one or more deer, raccoon, or any other wild animals in any place, and so on? So insert those two species at that point, but leave it open to any other.
Mm-hmm.
So a motion to make that amendment if that resolves the issue.
I'll make that motion.
Okay. So we're looking at the amendment. So Councillor Cleveland made the motion. Who wants to second that?
I'll second that.
Okay, Councillor Bell-Hatfield. Any discussion on that? Okay, so we're simply voting on the amendment. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Motion carried. And with that amendment, now we will vote on the entire feeding wild animals bylaw that we approve the second reading, and it will include. Go ahead.
So before you proceed, so I would say that that you haven't materially changed the bylaw, except you've been very explicit about two species.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you have to consider this first reading, but I'll defer to the solicitor if he'd like to clarify, because we are making an amendment at second reading.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Certainly.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, no, I agree with Jeff. I think it's not that significant a change that you'd have to go back to first reading.
Good.
Thank
So we'll
you.
just continue the path. So we are voting on that approved second reading. Who wants to make that motion? Okay. Council Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Lesser. Your hand is half up there. I can see it. Okay. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Motion carried. Thanks, folks. Good stuff. Okay. New business, Municipality of Yarmouth amalgamation.
Your worship, I put that on the agenda just as an information item, so that everyone was aware that we had a response to our letter. So it does suggest that they would like to cooperate in setting the agenda.
Okay. Good. So that's for information purposes. Councillor Dares?
Sorry, slow on the trigger here. Yeah, I just wanted to iterate that the invitation was extended to the municipality of Argyle as well, but we had no delusions that they would be interested in. Then that's in recognition of their culture and their willingness to protect their heritage and their culture. And the response we got was one that we expected, but we wanted to extend the invitation out of courtesy.
Okay. DAO, was that, it wasn't extended?
We advised them that we were meeting with the municipality of Yarmouth and indicated to them if they wished to participate, that they were welcome to.
As opposed to a formal letter. Yeah, okay, good. All right, so reports. Council Advisory Committees, Committee of the Whole, Deputy Mayor. I don't think there's anything there because we didn't have a Committee of the Whole meeting, so you're off the hook tonight. Okay, and Citizen Advisory, Planning Advisory, Councillor Cleveland, we didn't have a Planning Advisory, did we?
No, we didn't, Your Worship. Actually, we probably will in February.
Yes.
A couple of things to cover, but nothing until then.
Okay. Reports for information. Questions for committee chairs. Is there anything that anybody wanted to ask each other? I know it's been wild times with COVID, but is there anything on the horizon that anybody wanted to share? Okay, we're good. And then we have additions. So COVID-19, we just put this on here because there are those things that we should probably put on the agenda just to have conversation around. There's no motion required here. It's just basically, I say for information purposes, but we do have a public that watches these meetings. We're live streamed. We will be on Eastlink. I think folks have been watching the COVID updates for the greater part. And, just recently, I believe it was last evening or this morning, I don't recall, but it was just recently, Dr. Lisa Barrett did an update, and it was very comprehensive. It was excellent. We can certainly share that. I think I shared it with Jeff, or we tried to find it so we can share that with council. But, she's very professional. She's very good at what she does. And I guess one of the questions that comes out of that is, as a council, obviously we're meeting virtually, so we are trying to set the example, or doing our best to set the example. At the risk of embarrassing him, Jeff has been, 10 feet ahead of this the entire way. I want to say for the last 6 months, but it hasn't. It's been over 2 years. And I think we're settling in. When we think about that, we're settling into the fact that it has been a long time since we've been in COVID. At first, everything, we got locked down. There were different things that the government decided to do. Folks were doing their best to follow the protocols, to pay attention to what the government was saying. Grocery shopping. My goodness, I still remember bringing my groceries home, and I washed everything, including cans and plastic bags. Everything got washed with soap and water. Roadside, the pickups, all those things with regard to the businesses. As a council, it's tremendously important to us that our businesses succeed. And they've been, the restaurants have been doing, roadside pickup, takeout. The businesses have been doing their very best, with regard to mask wearing and social distancing and managing the number of people inside their businesses. It's been really difficult. We know that. And town hall is closed. There's business as usual because we've done this before. The work gets done from the safety of our staff's homes, and they've been amazing through this all. Jeff, you can share more on that if you want to, but
Sure.
They have been just amazing through this all, and the work is getting done. But as a council, we set the example by not doing this in person. We need to be safe. And, I see Belle's hand is up. I was going to ask you anyway, Belle, because I know that you're very close to this. I think it's just really incumbent upon us, not just as a council, but as an entire community, to understand what it is we can do to stop that spread, to slow it down, and every little bit helps. I think we saw that, and I'll just say it bluntly. I think the reason that we are seeing so many homes sold and being purchased at such a price, and people coming in, and the population going up, is because we were so safe during that first round of COVID, because we did everything right. We followed the protocols. We took it seriously. And you know what? We're in another round, and we need to just do the same things. It's harder once you've been through it once, because it's like, oh no, do I have to do this again? But we do. We need to take it upon every single one of us in our community, in our region, do everything we can to slow it down. And if that means staying home more often, ordering takeout, any of those things that we can do is a tremendous help. So Belle, I'm going to turn it over to you because I see your hand up there, and you go right. You share whatever you want to share. It's just important that we get that word out there, that we each have a duty.
Well, I'm really glad that you raised the issue with regard to our actions and the fact that the town hall has reverted back to virtual meetings, and that it's closed its doors again. I remember the last meeting we had of the last year in December, that at the end of the meeting, Jeff was broaching the possibility that we would be back as normal and get rid of all of our distancing in the town hall, and that in January we'd be meeting as normal, and yet here we are. And I think what it demonstrates is, number one, is the need for adaptability. We all have to be adaptable, and I think we all have to recognize that we aren't in control of where we are. So I want to acknowledge all of the individuals in our community who get up every morning and go to work in front-facing jobs. We are the lucky ones. We have the privilege of being able to adapt to virtual meetings and still do our job, but be able to be more in control of how safe we are. But every day, people throughout our community get up and they take risks in order to serve us, so that our economy can continue to work, and so that we can continue to be this social network that we are, because none of us are independent. We all rely on everybody. And this next wave that we're now in the midst of, I think that it's forcing us to change course. We're at a different time. We all have heeded the call of our public officials, and we did what we were told to do. 92% of eligible people in Nova Scotia have begun the vaccine process or have completed it. I think some of our councillors here tonight have just gotten their boosters. So we individually have crushed the curve, but now socially, all of our systems are in danger, because Omicron is so infectious that it means that when people go to work at the hospital, they're working with the possibility that the people next to them are going to have to be isolated. And so all of our systems are under stress. Our truck drivers are under stress, our firefighters, our police officers, our restaurant owners, everybody needs us now to do what we can. So I'm acknowledging everyone that has to work, but I think that it's a call to action. You know, we have been successful, which is why we're where we are, and why all of us are individually probably pretty safe, because we've been vaccinated, and it's going to be tough if we get sick, but we'll probably get through it. But our systems need us now. And I listened to Dr. Barrett this morning talking about the challenges facing healthcare workers. But I think every system that delivers services is facing challenges because their workers are off on isolation. They're trying to fill in gaps everywhere they can. And so for me, my decision has been, I'm going to try and minimize as much as I can every connection with another person for the next little while, so that I don't contribute to the problem. Because I think all of us have a choice. We can choose right now to be part of the solution, or our actions might act as an accelerant that forces all of our systems to the breaking point. So I'm just so thankful that we live in a province that still cares about one another. And I know that if Nova Scotians understand what they're being asked to do, that they're going to step up and they're going to heed the call again, which is that we need to take care of each other in a different way. So that's kind of where I am right now.
Thank you. CAO?
Okay, thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Councillor Hatfield, for reminding me just how wrong I was in December. I've thought about that more than once over the last few weeks, and thought, why didn't I just keep my mouth shut?
No.
But that's really how quickly this has come upon us, right? If you remember, we were pretty optimistic that we were going to be in a better place, but here we are. And Your Worship, this isn't the second time. This is the fourth time. Right, this is the fourth time, the fourth wave, and our area, due partly, in fact, to partly because of our geography, but also partly because of the actions of our community. We've been relatively unscathed in the previous waves, and so I think when all the dust settles, our community will still, I think, stand above others in terms of to what degree we're affected by this current wave. It's here and it's in our community, but I think, as Councillor Hatfield has said, we'll respond. The vaccine policy, Your Worship, that Council approved back in November, the date for staff to be fully vaccinated the deadline is tomorrow. And I'm pleased to tell you that but for 2 or 3 possibilities, I think that the entire contingent of Town of Yarmouth staff have provided proof of vaccine. And some of them just, honestly, some of them needed a nudge, and they've told me that. And I've also, I don't know if this has been your experience at all, but I've also heard from an employer outside of the town who said, thank you for doing that, because we've had people that we were hoping would get vaccinated on our staff who saw that and then went ahead and got vaccinated. So the policy that the town sets, even though it only really is for our staff, our volunteers and contractors and so on, people do notice that, and it makes a difference. So congratulations on that. And as I say, we do have perhaps 2 or 3 that won't meet the deadline, but we're hopeful that maybe it's just one, and with a little bit of time, we'll get to 100%.
The CAO sent me an email this week. Said, could you please let HR know that you have been vaccinated, or you're going to get fired?
Well, be suspended first, but anyway. So you mentioned the town hall is closed, so I want to clarify that we are closed to the public. And that part of our operation is closed to the public. There are some people working within town hall who have to in order to do their work. So, for instance, if you're paying the bills, you have to physically have those papers. We need to check the mail. There's certain things that need to be done within town hall. Loading of the for the meter reading for the water system, for instance. So Several of us from time to time need to be within town hall. Some of our employees, it is far easier for them to work within town hall. So we have put in place much stronger restrictions for working within town hall to ensure that if they have to or they choose to work within town hall, that they're safe doing so. We do have other operations that aren't as fortunate as those of us that work within town hall. And I'm speaking of the fire department, public works, our water utility, our wastewater. Those people have to be, excuse me, in the workplace, sometimes interfacing with the public. And so their supervisors are working with the staff to ensure to the greatest extent possible that we're protecting them from exposure to the virus. So just want to mention them as well, because within our own group, it isn't possible for everybody to work at home. And sorry, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention our detachment assistants at the RCMP, for instance. You have to be at work. So, but that's where we are with COVID, and we have extended the closure to the public for at least another week. We want to see where this goes with the community. It is difficult. It's much more difficult in this wave to make that call without the numbers, right? When we used to get the numbers of how many cases were in our region, it gave us a sense of where things are. So I've spent quite a bit of time when I'm talking to staff this week. I'm saying, what are you hearing? What are you feeling about what's going on in the community? Are you comfortable at coming into town hall? Do you think we should open the doors to the public? And a meeting we had with all the directors and senior staff today, the consensus was we'll go one more week and we'll reassess. And school's going back in, and so that will change a little bit of a dynamic, and hopefully not change the COVID situation, but we don't know. So I'll stop talking, Your Worship, and
yeah, I'll ask you a question though, because and I think I know the answer. So Councillor Bell and I had a brief conversation. I think it was last week, and it was around the service delivery. The assurances, because we're seeing it in hospitals and quite a number of other places where the service delivery is impacted because of COVID. But so far, so good within the town. So the bus and the public works, those.
Yeah, we've been lucky so far. I mean, we have had people who have had to isolate because they were notified they were a close contact, but that happened for the most part over the holidays, and nobody that I'm aware of. And I suppose if I was aware, I shouldn't say so, but I don't think we've had anybody on staff who has had a positive result. So knock on wood. We've been okay. It is possible, and of course we're very concerned about if somebody were to get sick in some of the more critical functions where we have less backup, that we'd be in a tough spot. But again, most people, vast majority of people are double vaccinated, and some of us are triple vaccinated. So hopefully we'll get through this without any major disruptions.
Yeah, exactly. We were thinking about Councillor Heather. In your previous employment, you probably would have been in a little bit of although you don't panic, but it would have affected you tremendously. You're on mute.
Yeah, it certainly would, right? And I know it's affecting staff, healthcare workers at the hospital and long-term care facilities and everywhere, and they're certainly very, very stressed. So anything that we can do as a community to individually to support, like Belle said, the systems and keep things running is what we need to do.
There was a cartoon. There was a cartoon that I saw that really brought it home, I guess, in that situation with the gentleman in the hospital bed on the left, and he's yelling, "Nurse!" And in the next bid, the nurse says, "Yes." So, it was funny, but it gave me goosebumps because it's so true. And I know that I've had tests that have been pushed off for a couple months, and I don't want to sound too negative, but how many times have each of us heard somebody say, you know, if only we had caught it earlier with a medical situation. And you know, the medical field, everything's being pushed off and pushed off and pushed off, and it's affecting everybody. So we just each need to do our part. And Councillor Bell, thank you for the shout out for, you know, those frontline workers, because we are really blessed to be able to do our work this way. Councillor Lesser?
I just wanted to add on the end, sort of what we're talking about, but on a different topic. Just it's a depressing topic to talk about sometimes. And I know, you know, if people are watching this, they hear it on the news. I'm choosing to not watch the news most nights because it's all you hear. But there are a lot of still really good, positive things happening in our community. And I look forward to, like, you know, February and March and being able to get back out and socialize. And then, you know, this summer, having, you know, the Coal Shed Festival back and all those events, and, you know, be the first time in 3 years. So I think we're so close to the end here that there is a lot to celebrate. And we don't have a lot of people in our community that have been severely affected by it at this point, luckily. And I think there are a lot of positives, but it's, you know, it is a topic that often is depressing to people. And I know mental health for people is very it's very hard right now for a lot of people. And I think, you know, if you are struggling, I would encourage people to reach out to mental health and talk to a counselor and look after yourself. But, you know, in a few more weeks, hopefully we'll be in a better situation and we'll start seeing a bit of light at the end of the tunnel. And, you know, we're getting into spring and summer. I think Yarmouth is going to be on the rise again, and businesses are going to be in full operation, and we'll show the world what we're made of.
Exactly. So the mental health piece, and you're right. People need to reach out for the help that they need. But I'm gonna embarrass somebody because he does what he does, and he's got such a humble spirit. But our deputy mayor, on his own, not as a deputy mayor, but just as a citizen who cares, this Y-Town challenge. See, I'll start crying if it's been unbelievable, and it's not about it's not about people making the cakes. It's not about people playing cards. It's that families are sending notes and saying, we actually sat down. The kids got off their computers, off their phones. They're sitting down together. They're playing it. This is how we grew up, right? Remember, you have to come home when the street lights go on, right? Or when mom can yell that loud to tell you to come home. You know, the kids are baking. They're playing cards. They're building cars and forts out of cardboard because Steve Barry understood. I'm not going to speak for you, Steve, but because he understands the whole mental health. The parents are a mess because they're in the house with kids. This is not what they do. You know, the online learning and I guess it just goes so many layers. But Steve, if you want to speak to it, you don't have to. But I mean, if we stood up, we'd give you a standing ovation because it's been awesome. So helpful to this community, just so helpful. So thank you for, I don't know where you come up with this stuff, except you're going back in your memory and seeing what you did as a kid.
And that's really what it comes down to. Just remembering what it was like to be a kid. I have an unfair advantage, I think, working at the high school and working with youth. So I kind of understand, or at least try to understand, that it's nice when they can put the phones down every now and then and just enjoy each other. And I just think it speaks hugely to our community. We step up, whether it's a game to play or prizes to find or, you know, pop cakes to make or whatnot. And the people who reach out to give prizes, the businesses around, the support. I just think, you know, one of our strongest things is our citizens and the ability to come together. And no matter how it is or what it is, it seems like we always do it. And I have a huge support cast that throws out ideas on there. I mean, I might be the one at the forefront posting, but it's definitely more than just me. And, you know, a big shout out to all the parents and the people who are out there who participate. It's been great. And we hope to get it going, keep it going as long as we can. Actually, we hope to shut it down because we'll be too busy outside enjoying things real soon. So, but thanks for that.
That's Yeah, good on you. Thank you. Yeah, we hope to shut it down. I think Jeff said those words one time. The goal is to shut all this down so we can get back to normal. So yeah, huge huge for the community. So anybody else on COVID? We're good. Thanks to everyone for sharing that, and to the community for everything you're doing. So under additions B, I put in TV funds, and I just got it, and I can share it with you, but I haven't. I just found it. So I think what I'm going to do with this, basically, TD reached out, and it's TD here, and it looks like it's here in Nova Scotia, Atlantic region. They're sending it from Halifax, and they're basically saying about the LGBTQ 2+, the celebrations that they have every year, and they're just asking if we would. They've tried to reach out in varying manners, and some success, but not full success. So wondering if we would like to fill out an application for $500 to go towards something like that. And I just wanted you to all be aware of that. Jeff, I think what I can do is send it to Brandon. It's a really easy, it's an easy, just you have to put an invoice number on it, and you're just asking for the funds. And then because the LGBTQ, they do come to us for funds, and we would have that pocket of money. So is everybody okay with that?
Sure.
Good stuff. So Jeff, I don't need a motion because it's just for information, really. I'm going to say it's Brandon's job to take that on and
forward it to Brandon, and he will do the application. And if there's any follow-up reporting, he'll look after that as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, just wanted council to be aware of that. And he did get, that was posted anyway, $5,900 he got for the rink. I guess it was out of the millions that were doled out, but we got a little bit of money. And
so that was Durham and Brandon, and they've got some others that work with them. So it was a team effort. Yes. And yeah, that was a great little plum there.
Good stuff. Go ahead, Heather.
Was that from the announcement that was just made this past week for the rinks across Canada?
That's right.
Yes. So we got a little bit of that. I think they're going to put up some water stations and a few other things. Actually, Mike posted it. Mike's on. I shouldn't put Mike on the spot, so I won't. Unless you want to speak up, Mike. I know it was for.
There was a piece of audio-visual equipment. I think that was it.
Right on. Oh, wait,
we coincidentally lost a piece. As you know, we do some amazing work, some of the best work around, as far as I'm concerned, in the province when it comes to streaming hockey and any kind of events that require that. And coincidentally, a piece happened to go right on time for this actual money to show up, which worked very nicely. So part of it's going to that. The other part is going for these water refill stations.
Good stuff. Excellent. Okay, and then under C, under additions, African Nova Scotian Heritage Celebration. So that's you, Deputy.
So the last 2 years, the town has held the African Heritage Month celebration. We did one at the Grand 2 years ago. We did a virtual one last year, and we'd like to do one this year. The team that I worked with that did Emancipation Day and got that together in 3 or 4 days this summer. We met yesterday. When we're meeting again tomorrow to kind of just get the ball rolling on that. And we received an email in December and basically was like, get this in a few days if you would like some funding. And it's hard to do these things in December. And a lot of times you have to adhere to the the rules that they set out. And after our discussion, after our meeting the other day, we talked about how rich our culture is here when it comes to African Nova Scotians and the things that they did. And it'd be nice to partner with the school board. I think once again, we have an idea to get things out to the school to challenge them to, find some local people. The mayor's mother did a beautiful art exhibit that highlights a lot of that. We were lucky to, highlight a few of those people last year, and we'd like to continue to do that. I mean, we all know the Martin Luther Kings and the Malcolm X's, and not that they're accomplishments aren't important, but when you got people right here in our own backyard, you know, first black pharmacist and whatnot, you know, Bruce Johnson, that a lot of people don't even know anything about. So to stop rambling on, I guess what I would like is if maybe we could discuss that council could pay up to maybe $500 to maybe fund this initiative. Last year we hired a videographer that helped us out, and we had a few stipends for some people who were nice enough to do a few pieces for us on that. And I'm just wondering if council would entertain the fact that we can do it, and then we can own it as our own and continue on with the partnership with the school board. I think would be great too.
I think we
Motion if
moved by Councillor Lesser.
Sorry, I'd make that motion if it's appropriate.
Second by Councillor Dares. Okay, any discussion? I think we did this last year as well. We put up our money to make sure we were secured. Okay, any more discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried.
Thank you very much.
Okay, approval of invoices. That various invoices be approved for payment, please. Councillor Heather, second by Councillor Dares. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. And the date of next meeting is February the 10th, and the CAO will just, and Lindsay will keep us just updated on if we're going to be in person or not, which I don't know. But okay. And we are looking for a motion to go in camera. Okay, Councillor Lesser, second by Councillor Bell. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Thanks, folks.
Okay, so I'll wait for Lindsay's say-so that we're no longer sending this out to the world.